Long ago, in the land of Israel, there lived a young shepherd boy named David. David was the youngest in his family, and while his older brothers were tall and strong, David spent most of his days caring for his father's sheep on the quiet hillsides. David loved to sing songs and play his harp, and he was brave, kind, and faithful to God. One day, God sent the prophet Samuel to find a new king for Israel. God told Samuel to visit David's family and look for the one he had chosen. When Samuel arrived, David's father brought out all his sons, except for David, who was still in the fields with the sheep. Samuel looked at each brother, but God whispered to him, "Do not look at how tall or strong they are. I look at the heart." Finally, David was called in from the fields. As soon as Samuel saw David, God said, "He is the one." Samuel poured special oil on David's head, blessing him and telling him that God had chosen him to be king one day. But David didn't become king right away. There was already a king named Saul, and David went back to caring for sheep, waiting patiently for God's plan to unfold. While he watched the sheep, David learned to trust God, and he grew strong and wise. Later, King Saul needed someone to play music for him to feel better, and David's beautiful harp playing was just what Saul needed. David moved to the palace and played songs for the king. He also became friends with Saul's son Jonathan and bravely helped Saul's army. One day, a giant named Goliath came to fight Saul's soldiers. Goliath was tall and fierce, and nobody in the army wanted to fight him. But David remembered that God was always with him. He stepped forward, trusting God to help him. With only a slingshot and a small stone, David bravely faced the giant. He aimed, let the stone fly, and Goliath fell to the ground. David's faith and courage saved the day, and everyone cheered. After that, people began to see how special David was. He continued to help King Saul, but Saul became jealous and tried to stop David from becoming king. David had many adventures, running and hiding, but he always trusted God to keep him safe. Finally, after many years, King Saul was gone, and the people of Israel needed a new king. They remembered how brave and kind David was, and how much he loved God. So they came to David and asked him to be their king. David became the king of Israel, just as God had promised long ago. As king, David cared for his people, led them wisely, and tried to do what was right. He remembered to pray and thank God every day, knowing that God had chosen him, not because he was the strongest or the tallest, but because of his good heart. David's story teaches us that God sees what's inside us. He cares about our hearts more than how we look or how strong we are. Even if we're small or young, God can use us in big ways if we trust Him, show kindness, and do what's right. David's journey from shepherd to king reminds us all that with faith, courage, and a loving heart, we can do amazing things. And so, David ruled wisely, always seeking to follow God. And his story became one of the greatest adventures in the Bible, showing everyone that even a shepherd boy can become a great king through God's love and guidance.